I'm sure that maybe my colleague or my good friend sitting here might have seen it. If he hasn't seen it, maybe I could share with him for him to look at the feasibility studies as to how we could get one end-to-end system in this country. Now, when that was done, a report was issued, and the government had the report. So the current government of the day only sought to implement a feasibility study of looking at having one end-to-end system. Don't forget that time is of essence, and we say that time is money. And for that matter, it's important. In trade, the World Trade Organization themselves had ranked a lot of the systems that you have in the world. And today, I will tell you that the UNIPASS, which is the backbone of the ICOMS, if I'll put it that way, because the UNIPASS is a system that's a customs management system run by KOPIA, which is the Korean customs, that is their IT wing, and they export this. If you go to Dubai, you have the Dubai customs, you understand, and they also have a system that they run. If you go to Singapore, they also have a system, and if you go to WTO, the World Customs Organization, and WTO, they have run these three that I've mentioned to you, these three countries, their customs management system as the best you can have in the world. And so it gives you a premise to understand why the government decided that, okay, we also needed something good for ourselves in this country. So an end-to-end system that looks at real time, making sure that people can do their business, the turnaround time within the ports and all that. Don't forget that if you don't have a very good system, that can also contribute to, delays at the port, even container congestion, which all these things do not help.
They increase cost
and they increase cost and all that. And so this needed to be done. And so the government, then set up a committee, a cabinet subcommittee, which was led by Honorable Asaf Mafo, the senior minister. They went through all the motions, and then, this year, they decided to deploy the ICOMS in this country. So somewhere March, the deployment began. And I think we've spoken about this many times. So March, the borders, that is the land borders or the frontiers that you want to put it. Then in April, the system then goes to Takoradi Port. Okay? Then in May, KIA begins. And then in June, we go nationwide. That is nationwide, and we make sure that every place is now covered as we are supposed to do it.
We'll talk about your deployment and the challenges that came with it or that have come with it. But you make a certain key point, suggesting that initially, you just go in, you do whatever you have to do, and you come out. There wasn't a point-to-point setup, sort of.
So we didn't have the end-to-end. So you realize that, and I'm sure that my good brother will be able to paint the picture for you to see the system that was there.
I'll come to
the CCVR processes were being performed by West Blue, right? And then you also had the GCNet also running the other system. So you had two systems that you needed to use in doing your work. You put in, and then it comes out, and then you take it and you put in another system. You understand? That is what was happening.
But were they complaining?
Were they complaining?
Yes.
Well,
if there's no problem, what do you want to fix? They weren't complaining. And, okay. Sorry, you go ahead.
I wish he would be able to explain that to you better.
Okay.
But if you say were they complaining, I think that
it's not so much about them.
It's both all stakeholders.
Okay.
It's not only about them, because don't forget that it's something that is being run by government. It's supposed to help generate revenue for government, value for money. All these things are inclusive. So it's about the government of the day looking at how can we put up systems that will meet the WCO standards? Let me tell you something. Within the WCO standards, that's the World Customs Organization, pre-manifest is one key thing that a country should be able to do. And when I talk of pre-manifest, it's the fact that, okay, you are importing goods into Ghana. Okay? Now, the goods are not here, but you have your bill of lading and all those documents. You should be able to process your document and wait for it. And you know the advantage to that? We all know how the dollar behaves in this country. Now, if today I'm expecting my goods in a month's time, obviously, between you and I, you know very well that hardly do we see the dollar drop in this country. It's either stable or going up. So if I can do pre-manifest, where I can pay for my goods ahead of time, so that in a month or two or in 2 weeks, when the dollar might have gone up, it won't affect me, that is what I will do. Okay. And that is one key thing even in the WCO standards. And so clearly, we were not doing that at the time. What you could do at that time was to get to know the likely amount you may pay. But the process where you can go through, process your bill of entry, your BOE, get the bill of tax, and do payment and sit and wait wasn't there. Okay. And so this system, which is the ICOMS, has provided that, making sure that we meet that, standards that has been put there.
Something appears to have a lot to say. Something, he's a public relations manager, so it's expected that he would speak this way. But from your end, again, what is wrong with government trying to streamline things and to try and make things in such a way that we can track whatever it is that is coming in or going out, and in real time also? Why the opposition?
Well, good afternoon to your cherished viewers, and I must say this is my first time of coming to MX24.
You're welcome.
And courtesy to Marifa, who invited me. This is the first time of me getting to know that there's a new setup here, and I come to see a whole house with a lot of friends that I've met before, yes. Sami Yedichi and others, and I think that it's a place to be.
Indeed,
it's a
indeed
place
it is.
To be.
So why the opposition?
I'm sure in no time you will grow beyond the sky limit.
Great.
Well, I have never in the one opposed change in the port system, and my very good friend can attest to that. What I said was that there was a need for ICOM or UNIPASS. We are no more talking UNIPASS today. So when you mentioned UNIPASS, I was laughing in my mind because these people, they came to lie us with UNIPASS and to
don't worry, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. We'll get to that.
It is ICOM. It is ICOM. So today, if I'm going to court for an issue, if I use UNIPASS there, the government can come and say that UNIPASS is a strange name, so it is ICOM.
But don't forget, the system belongs to the government.
That's right. That's right. So let's hear.
So what I said was that I have seen what he talked about, the visibility study that was conducted in 2015. It was done by the same company because I understand they spent about $3 million or so in doing the visibility studies. Because I remember 2014 or 2015 thereabout, Nick, who is the owner of this baby that we are discussing today, showed me a voluminous document about the visibility study that was done, including the border, and then of course our port system. And so, yes, the company has began the work not just yesterday. The only problem that I had with them during the implementation was that there was a need, as we talk about WTO, World Customs Organization, and he made reference to WTO and other things, what are expected of a trade facilitation to be done precisely in the country with the ease of doing business. And that is what all of us were all yearning for. And I cannot sit here to say that at the time we were having West Blue or GCNet, they were not delivering. If I say that, then I'm being biased. But of course, they can only tell us that they are bringing more sophisticated system. The key language there, or the key word there to convince me was that the end-to-end use, and not just the end-to-end user, but also looking at the cost component, that the two institutions were charging.
Okay.
Because I remember at the point the debate was, if you combine the two figures together, compared to what Ghana Link is charging now, I think you are charging 0.07.
Yes, 0.75.
Yes, 0.75. And so it is much more cheaper. And at the point, another person was telling me, adding the charge that GCNet was making and the charge that West Blue was making, including, I understand there was another auditing company also that was created. So when you add the two percentages, someone also convinced me that it was even lesser than what they are taking. But that one, we are not discussing that one now. We are discussing why were we in arms against them.
Yes.
And if you can go to all the major media houses. What I said was that in paper, what they show me is good. Looks good. Giving me reference in South Korea, right?
Yeah.
Is good because globally, worldwide, trade facilitation, custom, that are performing best is coming from South Korea. So that one, there's no two ways about it. However, at the time they were taking over. You remember they were supposed to take over in April, no, in May, and there was some confusion. Then the ministry or the whole government had to come and say, this is the West, we should go back to work. Then in June, they took over. I proposed two things. I didn't bring GCNet, neither I brought West Blue. It was a government, and government is a continuing government. Fortunately or unfortunately, the same GCNet was brought by this current trade minister. I don't know if you follow the history. The same current trade minister, Honorable Alankojo Chiremete, was the one who brought GCNet to this country.
No, just to correct that.
But even with
it was during his time.
No, sorry.
It's important
You still haven't actually answered the question I asked.
Good. What was the question?
Why the opposition?
No, that's what I'm trying to give you antecedents. Because he gave you antecedents before he came to explain to the issue. So I have to give you antecedents because your people are viewing it.
Yes.
Good. So I propose that even if they were sophisticated and they were coming, government should be able to give them to run parallel with the GCNet. Because you can't tell me that all of us did not feel what actually transpired during the period that they took over. There were ups and downs. And of course, I am not a shadow-minded. I am not a dunderhead to be able to know that if in the beginning, even when you started doing your test running, before you go live, you were testing. Because to correct all the teething problems, so that if you have a live program like this, it doesn't truncate your viewers, so that your viewer will not say, okay, these people, they are coming to us, then they switch to another network. So you want your viewer to focus and stay tuned to your system. So there was going to be teething problems. So I propose that why don't they allow the GCNet to run for like 3 months? Or even 6 months to exit, so that by then they will be able to. That was what I said. Okay. So that by then they will correct all the teething problems. Then GIF came in to also say, okay, well, they also have issue. What was their issue? The issue was that their friends, because remember he said that they started at the border level. Their friends at the border level says that they were not well trained, or they were still training when they said they've taken over or they started deploying there. And the system wasn't working there. And then they sent their team to go and do auditing or whatever. Came back with the report to say that nothing is not working. And so I was called by one of them, I think TV3 or Metro TV. And I said, well, I cannot sit there and say that 1 day or 1 month old of a system to say it's not workable. Let's give them 2-3 months and see. Because already the government had made up his mind that they are going. So we cannot use 1 or 2 or 3 months to assess them. Okay. At least to make proper assessment, needful assessment, I think we need 3 months. And I can tell you, I started making all my contacts when I had the call to come to this place. And before then, I had already made some inquiries because it's my job to know. And I have to rely heavily on the agents to know what is actually happening on the ground. Yes, I can sit there and tell you ICOM is working, but there are still technical things, that 1 or 2 things that they need to do.
We'll come to the technical challenges with ICOMs currently and all. But you wanted to make a quick intervention. I would allow you to do that, and then we will take a certain sound clip of some of your people up in arms against them. But let's get the clarity. Yes, at a time.
At a time. I mean, it's important to note that today, as we sit here, as of last week Friday...
We'll come to that. We'll come to the numbers. I have it here. We'll come to the numbers.
no problem. But, I mean, he talked about the trade minister, the trade minister being the one that brought it in.
So I just need that
Prior to that, a contract had been signed by the previous government. He saw to the implementation of it. And so that is one of the facts that he needs to, check, because the outgone government...
If they look, just like Akufo will tell John Mahama, okay, you brought the money, I implement it. You take the credit. If you got the contract, the money, why didn't you implement it? So, if you want to talk of trade facilitation in this country, people always want to talk that if it's about trade facilitation, they look for it. So don't sit there and tell me that what I'm saying is not right. I know what I'm saying. But I'm saying in the trade, you have just done trade.
You see, Samson, the good thing you must understand is that this government is a government that believes in continuity. And for that matter, they will, on any day, anything that is good, will continue it. And that is why, even though a feasibility studies of this system was done prior to the coming in of this government, they saw the need to see to its implementation.
So the ease of doing also ask that West Blue was levied December. December they would have expired. Why didn't they wait for December for them to expire? Then they go down to truncate their contract. You have to pay judgment them.
Well, one would have said that you need to check. West Blue had expired. West Blue had expired.
No, it was supposed to expire December.
Okay, no, you can check it.
So
West Blue had expired.
No, the two gentlemen are at it again. It's just the beginning anyway. But this is opposing views. And like I mentioned earlier, we did have a number of importers and exporters raise hellfire when all of this started. And we have a footage we want to show to you. Let's just take a view at what happened at the time, situate it in a certain context, and then I can try and ask Mr. Icom sitting right here a few questions. We'll be back.
Contend with so many issues with this change. Cost is escalating because all time-related fees, i.e. demurrage, terminal charges, state warehouse rent charges, ground handlers charges at the airport, truck demurrage at land frontiers. Now all of these have not been held in check as we contend with massive delays and as a result of the change in processes. If this be the new normal, ladies and gentlemen, then the scope of the whole delivery will have to be redefined. Because not too long ago, in 2015, when the pre-arrival assessment reporting system was deployed, it reduced the delivery time of customs classification and valuation report to a publicized 48-hour timeline as per their service level agreement. And the ground handlers at the airport, is interesting to note, took a cue and slashed down their free allowable dates from 8 to 4. On the 28th of June 2020, a week after the deployment, we had a disclaimer notice of a sort from the ship owners, which is showing there, an Agents Association of Ghana, expressing their frustration at the effect of the change and absolving themselves of any blame in delay of cargo release and its attendant costs. A clear indication of having no hand in cost escalation, which is demurrage. So if you want to understand this, now the shipping lines have come out and said, hey, they are going to make money from the demurrage charges, but they want to bring out a disclaimer that they are not the ones causing this. So if it's the system that is causing this, we should go to ICOMS and take our issues there. As for them, they'll be laughing all the way to the bank and collecting their demurrage charges. Now, statutory and other charges related to time will have to be renegotiated to reflect the new normal, since delivery time across board has changed drastically for the worst. This request to redefine the scope of the new normal should be treated with all seriousness, because state and private operators within the chain must not benefit undeservedly from a situation which has arisen through no fault of the traders. Anything short of the above will mean the old benchmark will have to be attained by the close of the second week of June 2020, or the status quo before the change be reinstated pending any further form of readjustments.
So those were some importers and exporters.
This side.
The freight forwarders, I must say.
President of GIFT, Ghana Institute of Freight Forwarders, Mr. Akron. And you remember I made mention of when they started the deployment at the border level, they had sent their monitoring team, and they came out with the report as to what was happening. In fact, if you remember, at one point, I think he heard me calling that if the agents were calling for proper training to their men, I have no problem. Because at the end of the day, if ICOM deploy today, it is the agent who will use, they are going to be the users in order to clear cargo for their customers. And so if they don't have the requisite knowledge to be able to use the system perfectly, then it's the right direction. Again, when we began, you cannot say that, look at how he was sweating profusely. It was because there was calls all over. And indeed, that is where I said that there will definitely be some teething problems, challenges. And so we cannot use within the teething problems to say that it's a total failure. You remember. And so, yes, there were ups and downs. In fact, Even at the point they were supposed to even do manual matching, and they had sleepless night because at that time everyone was wild, and of course I remember I remember when West Blue came, we also had the same problem. I don't know, but then we had joy.
I remember.
When West Blue came, we had joy, and Kogu Kwate has to come to port, and so sometimes changing the system brings some challenge.
I'm glad you mentioned West Blue.
Yes.
I'm going to ask. Sorry, Nova. So. The issue of West Blue and GCNet, because I remember very well when the vice president at the time, Dr. Bamu Bawumia, commissioned or announced that GCNet was coming and this was going to happen, blah, blah, blah. There was a lot that was said about why we needed GCNet to come in to do a lot of things it eventually did. The question is, if they were doing so well, or at the time we were told they were going to do so well, then there were a lot of, should I say, testimonials to suggest they were doing so well. Was there a need for us to replace them and have you on board?
I think that from the very beginning, I did indicate to you that we have changing scenes of life. And don't forget that the way you look today, you don't look the same. I'm sure 10 years ago, if you see a picture of me, you might burst into a big laugh. You have a big laugh. Today, I have changed. And change is something that we all need to adapt. Now, straight to the point, don't forget that we, apart from West Blue that came in to support the work at the port, they came in at the time to take over the job of destination inspection companies, 5 of companies.
You're talking West Blue?
Yes, West Blue. That's what I'm referring to. They came to take in that job, and it's that job that they were doing. Okay, very well. Now, this current government, under the office of the vice president, introduced paperless at the port.
Yes.
I mean, we remember in 2017 when that was introduced. But then, in looking at all this and in enhancing our image as a country, and then also ensuring that the ease of doing business when it comes to the customs operation side, we move the rankings, we move up so that we become the preferred destination of choice for imports in this country. Don't forget that recently there was an article by the Nigerian Customs, and they had indicated that they were going to work hard to take over a quantity of cargo. And I think that's over 100 million, or whatever it is that they were referring to, that they want to, enhance their ports to be able to take that. That tells you that we as a country need to always be ahead of the game. Because if you don't become ahead of the game, somebody else would, enhance their processes, and then the business that needs to come to you would go to the other place. So that deals with your revenues and all that. We serve the landlocked countries. Burkina Faso, Niger, Mali, all those countries, they move their goods through Ghana. And so we needed as a country, and I think that if I look at, the processes that we had gone through, the government in its mind thought that to have an end-to-end system was very critical. In as much as a system may be doing well. Today, Windows 7 or so, are you aware that Microsoft has stopped providing this thing for
technical
it?
support
For it. So you can have Windows 7 on your laptop, but sorry, you might be hacked or you might have some challenges. So the world the world is moving, and for that matter, I think that the government of the day thought that they also need to move fast with the changing threats and ensure that we can have the best system in place to be able to, become the preferred destination of choice in terms of customs work and imports that needs to come through. Even because, these things are so critical. Okay. Export, import, you need to be able to do all this.
What I want to say here is that I remember vividly when West Blue came, the two systems, West Blue and GCNet was not communicating.
Yes.
And sometimes when GCNet is down, West Blue will say that they cannot operate because GCNet is down.
Yes,
sometimes when West Blue is down, GCNet, so it's like they were trying to sabotage each other. And that was when they introduced the paperless system, the government set on them to make sure they communicate. And they came to do communication. The only difference that ICOM came to convince government and government understood was the end-to-end, because government was actually looking for a system that you can begin, so that tomorrow it doesn't look like another person, because of somebody, ICOM is not working. So today, as a trade advocate, if the system is down, I have to pick my phone and call Ivan, your people are not working. Or I call Clark, or I call Nabale, who's the managing director, I said, your system is not working. So that complaint has reduced. But nonetheless, it
so
doesn't
the
mean that,
system is working.
Yes, it's working now.
Okay.
Nonetheless, it doesn't mean that there are certain nitty-gritty things that they need to upgrade or they need to redefine. First,
Okay.
if one used to be clearing cargo at the port, the custom has something called interest. And I was even asking this morning, why interest? What is government selling to an importer is interest? And the interest, this is how the interest work. If I bring my container to the Tema port, I have 7 days demurrage free. It used to be 21 days, but it has been reduced 7 days. So we are not going to talk about the 21 days.
Okay.
7 days demurrage free. That means that within the 7 days, I should come to take my box.
Yeah.
If I don't pick my box, then it will be accruing an interest. So when GCN was there, or when the old system was there, it was user-defined. Now it is system-defined,
Okay.
which I want ICOMs to take note. So please take note of this, because it's a serious issue at our port. So what it means is that Samsung will go to Maxline for release. They will tell you that you have not paid duty. Meanwhile, you have paid duty. Because it has, the demurrage-free day has run off, and it's now accruing the 8th day, the 9th day going, the interest started accruing there. At first, the agent who is doing the process, who knows the figure, so you calculate and add, and then you go and pay duty, then you go to Simple for release straight away.
So that's what you mean by user defined.
Yes, but now
The system will now
the
generate-
system will calculate it. They will go and pay. You will get to the no, first they will give you the duty, the BOE. If that's BOE, they'll give you the duty.
Bill of tax.
Yes, you go and pay. Then when you go to the shipping line to ask for release, they say that you have not paid your duty. Meanwhile, you paid duty. You have. Then it is now the system will now calculate there for you. You go and pay. When you go to the field to pick for where the examination officer will now do the examination and release you, then they will tell you that you have not paid duty. And they will do manual calculation again for you. I don't know if you're aware. If you're not aware, they go, I don't want to debate on this because these are factual things I'm giving to you. You go back. So the importer or agent now go to the bank 3 times before. So that is cost of doing business.
And
that cannot
and
be.
hitherto that was not the case.
Hitherto it wasn't.
You just pay once.
Yes.
And that's it.
Yes. 2, if one is clearing car, first, we used not to do clearing car, go to custom chemist for what? As you speak, any personal effect that has a car, or if you are clearing a car, one has to go to custom chemist. For what? You are not clearing drugs. You are not clearing food supplement. Why are you one has to go to custom chemist for? And if you go to custom chemist and see a queue there, I'm telling you, quite apart from, we have something called the marking of the vehicles, where you go there and the custom officer who have to come there and then do the charges, take fiscal the charges. You have a system when they are loading the cargo. You have the manifest. You should be able to see cars that are coming to this country, track it, have the chassis number and everything. You go to custom SafeBond, where you have only 2 offices, 2 custom offices. When you have about over 200 people to clear cars that on that very day in the port there. So that is another problematic happening in the port, and that is also a cost of doing, because if one has to take his car today, and because only 2 officers are working, and because it is virtually manual and not electronic, which is ought to be electronic, of course, then you end up sleeping there. At the end of the day, the terminal operator is charging you rent. If you sit in the container, shipping line is charging you demurrage. And so that cannot come to ease. Yes, you are giving me end to end, but with this, I strongly believe that you have to look at it. Then there's another way. There's another issue about.
Let's see if Novan can respond to this rather quickly. So, yes, Samson Awingobit agrees that your system is working and is making things perhaps okay. The problem, however, is it's now increasing their cost of operations.
I think that some of the issues he's raising, Samson himself does know that some are human interventions. So, like if he says the SafeBond area has only 2 customs officers, I cannot determine how many customs officers that should be at SafeBond. That is the customs office, and they will have to define that. So I have provided a system.
Let's look. So no, the question I asked was whether or not. I'm coming. The question I asked was whether or not you had communicated this to ICOMS.
Yes, I think they are aware.
You think, or you
Have you communicated to them?
From my office to them, no. I guess
Okay.
from my office
So you
to
haven't
them, no.
yet
But
communicated to them?
you see, in the port, we work as a team. So when issues come, it's sharing.
I
am quite
understand that.
convinced
I just
that
wanted...
if you get to his technical committee, it's his technical team, they will tell you they are aware of it. Maybe they are working on it.
So that's fine.
Yes.
So, but you have not personally reached out to them
to him that
okay.
you should take note.
So Novan,
I've taken note of that. I must say,
but Novan,
yes.
So aside you hearing from them, I think you may have a system in place to ensure some of these things, to check constantly, to get feedback from your people on the ground, perhaps if there are challenges on how to fix them.
Of course.
And this hasn't come to your attention.
No, this hasn't come to us. And Samson does know that, just as he indicated, it's a community that all the stakeholders are. We have various platforms that we communicate on.
Okay.
And so when issues come and they are dropped there, quickly, action is taken on them. And I'm happy he's raised it here. Obviously, I would go back, we would have to take a look at this issue. Some of the issues that he also raised, as I did indicate to you, in the area of the customs officer, the number of customs personnel, that should be at a location.
But
that
what could possibly be the reason?
Office.
I'm okay with the other issue you raised about the personnel. I mean, that's fine. But for something you can work on, what could be the issue? Why are they having to pay so much?
It is not that they are having to pay so much.
It's about the inconvenience of paying there.
I said it used to be system defined.
And
it used to be system defined.
It used to be user defined.
Now it is system defined.
So let's hear you.
So their system, they just have to.
Something, all right, let's hear you. Okay. Novan.
Okay, so the point I'm making is that I think that in order to make things very easy for our stakeholders, is the reason why a lot of the issues have also been made a system defined to help and ensure that if you did all the things that you needed to do and you got on the field, that is now going to the various terminals and the various areas, shipping lines, you could get your release, you could, I mean, he talked about the fact that now the number of days have been reduced to 7 days, okay? And I think, and I will tell something, I think he would agree with me, if you did pre-manifest and everything that you did was right and there was no problem, if your container came in because you have paid and there's not much to be done, you should be able to clear your goods within 7 days. The turnaround time should be very easy. But if you have to wait for the container to get here before you submit your BOE, and it has to go through the processes and all that, that is much of a problem. And today, most of the community, that is the freight forwarding communities, are using what we call the PMD. That's the pre-manifest declaration. Today, I can tell you that as of last Friday, which was 24th of October, the total number of pre-manifest declarations that had been done was over 124,000.
No, I'm aware of it.
Okay.
I heard you saying that even the previous system wasn't there. It was there. But maybe because you weren't working with it, you didn't know. But if you tell me that you have redefined, I mean, your system is very sophisticated, I agree. You remember customs? You remember customs says that.
Samson, do me a favor.
You remember customs? No, let me come in. Let me come in. Customs says that. Customs says that. When we came to the training, customs made us to understand that you can pay, take your cargo, but when the manifest arrive, and when the container arrive, and there are changes, maybe in quantities or because the pre-manifest declaration that he's talking about, you might not, because it's not fiscally examined. I may say it's 1,000, maybe but it is 1,500.
So you're saying that is not a new thing; it's always been there.
So yeah, it has been there because of course it's a choice. So what you are saying is a choice for the importer or the agent.
Do you have data to suggest that perhaps people are now more inclined to use this setup, this system you speak of?
That is what I gave you the figures. I just gave you figures, and I'm telling you.
So you are giving me the figures as of October 25.
24th. 24. And I'm telling you that from
what are those numbers again?
I mean, from when we started, okay, which is from March when we deployed at the frontiers till today. I am telling you that, I mean, people who have used the PMD, which is the pre-manifest declaration, it is 124,643. And that alone constitutes, in terms of percentage, because you have pre-manifest, you have the non-BL declarations, you have the temporal vehicle importation, and these are the various plans that you could use in terms of clearing your goods.
Okay,
and I'm saying that...
One second, hold on. Let's hear you. Nova, make your point.
How are you going to deal with
Samson, hold on. Samson, hold on. Let Nova.
It's a good question. I will answer the question when I have finished this. I'm saying that pre-manifest alone constitute about 44.33% of the declarations that are being done in our ports today. So it tells you that even the freight forwarding community themselves have embraced this. The fact that you could do it, you pay, and just as he did indicate, after the container comes, you see what is expected is that you, the person who is putting in declaration, what you are submitting should be exact of what is coming or what is on the ship or in that container. And you see, honesty and truthfulness,
but that's the standard practice
and that should be the standard practice. The only way you might go and have to pay again, okay, is the fact that when the physical examination is done, I mean, really, it happens that you said you had 10 boxes of laptops. So you are saying, apparently you have 15 boxes of laptops.
The problem they are currently facing could be as a result of they under declaring whatever it is they are.
I'm not. You see, I don't want you to.
I'm just summarizing everything you're saying.
No,
so
you don't
saying it.
No, there's likelihood of if one does pre-manifest declaration, because at that time the custom officer himself who even passed you did not see the real, because they have examination officers who will be they are the last people to release you to go. Okay, even though there's preventive, but they are the last people to release you to go. So if I said I brought laptop 1,000 and they do the pre-declaration for me and I pay the duty, and on the day of examination they found out that it is not even 1,000, it is 1,500 or 2,000. That means I have to go and pay the differences. That's not what I was talking about. Okay. That's not stop collections I was talking about. But what I was talking about, you knowing your system should be able, because before you came, the interest rate was there. So, but how was it calculated? How was it being paid? People used to pay duty at a go. They don't pay duty and get to call simple line for release, and simple line will tell you that it's important to also. Then after your system calculate for the agent to go and pay, the agent get to terminal to pick the container where the examination officer are, and they will also say that no. They have to go. So you go 3 times to the bank and say it's
so
a cost of business, and that should not be entertained.
So he has mentioned that
we welcome the how you are working to perfect the system. I agree, but these are peculiar issues. Look, even car calculations. Remember, during the paperless time, the vice president made it that they have to take 30% of the SUV before they calculate the duty. When they came, after taking all the 30%, they calculate. Something that's supposed to pay about like 27,000. Sometimes it runs to like 50,000. People have to go in and protest before it finally comes back. So just to I think last week or so, or this month, that you have now introduced the 2 calculators to use for them to use to do the calculation of the duty. So yes, I agree. Let's agree that you have a system, because I have asked. I don't get the small agents that I asked the seasons agents in the port who actually clear cargo, and when you mention their name, you know them, and they tell me it's working. ICOMS is working, but when they say bad, then I say, then don't tell me that it's working and bad. Tell me the bad, so that when I meet them, I know what to tell them. And so there are challenges as it stands now, and you came in to help us reduce the cost of doing business. You've made reference to what WCO expecting. What WTO expected, countries must ease, and that is why you can win our landlord countries to come here to bring their cargo to us. Because if they bring their cargo to us and this go back and forth would incur more rent, they'll take to Benin Airlines, and you are very much aware. So I am hoping and praying that tomorrow we have a meeting and we are going to deal with this issue, and I'm sure ICOM will take it in good perspective. And you cannot tell me that your team are not aware. The technical team in Tema should be aware of what I'm talking about.
But at least Novan has been very accommodating of the views you've expressed today and the suggestions you've raised, as well as the
because he can't fight
issues. We are not here to fight. We are not here to fight. We're just here to share our views on issues. Now,
but opposing views. That's why you.
But I'm glad
I think that what something needs to do for me is that this is a platform, yes, opposing views, but when I'm making a point, it's important he allows me to learn.
Agreed.
So that at least I am able to, communicate to the audience, because at the end of the day, we are trying to educate the public as well. Because I really don't enjoy the fact that he keeps cutting me.
That's fine.
I'm not here to endorse what we are saying.
No, you're not supposed to endorse.
I'm here to tell you what is happening on the ground.
So let me make my statement and then come in.
So the point has been made. So you are saying there are critical issues on the ground.
It's not UNIPASS. Yes, writing UNIPASS. It's not UNIPASS.
You are saying, Samson, listen. I'm saying you've mentioned that there are issues on the ground. he has acknowledged that, well, this is now coming to his attention and that he's going to work with his people.
No, he's my friend. He's my friend.
That issue is dealt with. Nova, let me hear you. When you speak of the numbers, I think I saw a report, I think, a couple of months into your operations, suggesting that, well, you had managed to rake in almost 2 billion Ghana cedis in revenue for the government. Now I'm told it's about, what, 4 billion or 5 billion? How much is it? How much has ICOMS raised for government as of now?
Well, as of today, I wouldn't be able to because I have not been able to get
What are the latest numbers you have?
The latest numbers, I can give you the latest numbers that was put out by Customs itself. That was in August. As of August, when, they put out some numbers. And if you listen, from January, they themselves had indicated that from January till August 2020, Customs have been able to rake in some 6.9 billion. That is Customs from January.
That's from January.
From January. But
you came in March.
We came in March. But then the ICOMS had been able to, or had in representation of that 6.9 billion, ICOM represented 4.6 billion out of that total amount. And this is Customs figures. I mean, I don't want to, because don't forget that the figures that I have includes other payments that needs to go to other agencies. So normally you need to wait for.
So this is not a nominal figure.
This is a Customs, in terms of import duties.
Why hit consolidated account? It's what.
This, you see, yes, that is what Customs will say
Without
in terms
fees,
of
without
the
fees and
customs,
charges.
the cost, yes, without fees and charges.
Yes, that's what.
So that is what I'm putting there. So that tells you. Because if I want to give you the raw figures, it will be more than this. In terms of adding the fees and charges, you want to say, okay, if you look at the ICOMS as a whole, how much has the ICOMS brought in? So if from January to August, the Customs had collected 6.9 billion, and the ICOMS would have been in only between March and August, had brought in 4.6 in COVID period, where we had, in terms of cargo that was coming to a part of the world, taking a hit in terms of taking a nosedive, or will I say dropped, that alone tells you that that system probably was looking at other things that
they had a number of them had challenges.
But you see,
what's the name?
Samson, let me finish.
Yeah.
Kwabi,
yes.
Kwabi, I just told you that there have been some challenges where one will see the duty, go and pay duty, come back, go to shipping lines.
Yes.
Shipping line will say that you have not paid us.
Yes, you have mentioned that. You have mentioned it a number of times.
It's all his money for.
You see, at the end of the day, Samson was not saying that somebody said I paid money to ICOMS and the money I paid, I have overpaid, and for that matter, ICOMS should reimburse me my money. As long as you haven't raised that issue with me, it means that whatever fees that we are collecting are legitimate. It is what must be collected for the state, and that's what is important.
And why do you put vehicle to custom chemist? Why does the system put vehicle to custom chemist?
No, let's stick to the numbers. Let's stick to the numbers, and I'm glad you make reference to some huge numbers now. But what was the case? What was the case some time back? Because I remember again when GCNet was introduced, we were showed similar numbers, and we said, well, this suggests that GCNet is doing A, B, C,
I don't
blah,
speak
blah, blah.
for GCNet, my brother. And I don't want to... because if you look at the year-on-year and month-on-month figures, we have seen how ICOMS has, in terms of from March, grown, or let me say from June, even let me take it from June, when we went nationwide live. We have seen how the numbers have grown over the period. And that is what is important, because let's also look at volume. And in terms of
I was going to ask you about the volume.
In terms of the volumes he's talking about, I mean, if you even want to do year on year, the amount of cargo that has come in within this COVID period, and then compared to, I mean, I don't have that story from Ghana Shippers Authority, who are one of the agencies that monitors the cargo that comes into this country. They themselves had indicated that cargo had dropped. Within the COVID period, it had dropped. So that tells you that if we even had the level of cargoes the same as what was coming in within over the period, ICOMS would have done better.
So we are saying we are making so much even with reduced levels of imports
in terms of the cargo that is coming into the country.
It's picking up now.
But now it's picking up. And of course, that's why I said,
because there were a lot of importers who had gone to procure goods, and some ports were closed, and we are very much aware. Apart from that, cargo was even at the port, and someone like Okanshi, do I pronounce it well? Okanshi,
Okanshi,
where he has to clear the cargo and go there, and the market was closed down. How do you clear the cargo and go there? So there were so many challenges, but I think cargo is picking up now.
Of course, we know, we've seen the IMF World Bank reports indicating how cargo seemed to be picking up at this period. I think just yesterday I was reading one story in that area. And so it tells you that, for me, I keep telling people that at the end of the day, government, the key thing they are looking at is to how to raise enough revenues, how to make work at the port easy for themselves, that is the customs officials, and for the importers, exporters, freight forwarders, also at the port. At the end of the day, the turnaround is so critical for them, and it should be critical to all of us who are stakeholders. We at Ghana Link think that we have a system that can help, us as a country at this point in our life to meet the standards of WCO. Not only that, because you see, he had asked the question that do we have auditing. ICOMS is one system. Today I'll tell you that can tell if a customs officer who is sitting there is working or not. When a daily report is generated, they will tell you that, okay, this person on seat 1, this person on seat 2, this person worked on this number of BOEs, this person worked on whatever. The risk management system that has been incorporated in the ICOMS, okay, the auditing processes and all that is very key and important. And these models are available to what? Certain key stakeholders, including the Minister of Finance. Okay? Including the customs, the GRA commissioner, the commissioner general, including key people who have been given keys that can look at these things and look at the reports that they need to look at.
This brought me to a question that I wanted to put to Ivan again, is that complaint, as of this morning that I picked, was that if they do a BOE, we want to know how long does it take for an agent or an importer to get his duties ready to be paid. Because what I got...
He says give or take, in 7 days you should be able to clear the process.
He's talking about BOE.
It's a bill of entry.
Yes.
It's a bill of entry when you put it in.
Now, because when I was getting the complaint was that if you don't know anybody at CSTB, then you can take like 1 week. And I said, what? 1 week for what? You should not take, if all documents are like, maybe you need to get permit, certificate, and other things, and all documents
if
are
everything
ready,
is intact,
at least within a day or two, you should have it. Because remember, before ICON came to take over, we were spending 2-3 days to clear cargo at the port. And so if you cannot give us that one, then why should we waste time to work with ICON? And so I'm telling you, if you go back to your people, let them deal with CTSB.
So he's taking note of this as well.
Yes, it's also going to cost amount to a cost of doing business, and we cannot come to sit here and hail you when, even though you
what time is
and someone will sit at the custom head office and would not work on BOE, and BOE has to take without even querying it for them to know, okay, maybe you need EPA permit, or you need FDA, or you need that, just for someone must cause somebody. That's bureaucracy.
So genuine concerns you raised.
Yes,
something.
It's a genuine concern. And just to respond to him, Samson, I've taken note of that. CTSB is the Customs Technical Services Bureau. That is where they do a lot of classification. We do the classification and the evaluation, and this is purely customs official. It's a customs one.
And our time is up, so we should be wrapping
yeah.
Right
So
now.
I have taken note of that. I mean, give or take, within 24 hours, the BOE should come out.
Projections from your end. How much do you foresee ICOMS raising by close of year?
I cannot sit here and then
month on month. What's your figure?
Well, I cannot sit here.
What's your figure month on month?
I think that Samson has even
answered the
question. I wish I could tell the volume of cargo that will be coming in, the type of cargo, what kind of cargo, where it's going, and all that. If I could have all that before me, I'll be able to give you a proper projection. But give or take, the only thing I can tell you is that I know that ICOMS has closed a lot of the loopholes, and government will be able to realize good revenue.
Well,
and the services that we are providing, I must say to Samson and then our good friends who are the other stakeholders that are watching us, that we are here because we believe that the future of trade facilitation is coming from the ICOMS, which is Ghana Link providing that. And we are here to ensure that we provide the best of services to all of them, Our doors are open 24/7. Samson is my friend. He calls me. He tells me what the issues are. We get it resolved.
He fights you often
You understand? So we are willing to ensure that we do.
Samson,
we
final
give them
remarks.
the best of services. That
Samson, your final remarks.
Final remarks to my friend here is that
Friend and nemesis.
his job is very tedious job, and he has to do dynamic control. From where I sit and my friends who read the press conference, sometimes whatever they put out there, he should take time to take their data, listen to them, look at it, because sometimes you don't get speak. We make reference to what was happening in the previous system.
Okay.
So that they too can be able to manage to say, okay, their IT can do something in that similar in order to correct what is happening. Because mind you, at the end of the day, we want the ease of doing business in our port. And then we all flow. That's the best thing we are looking forward.
All right. Concluding words there by Samson Asaki Awengobit. And Samson Awengobit is the Executive Secretary for the Importers and Exporters Association of Ghana. He was one of our guests today on the show. Also, Norvan Akwa-Hayford, Public Relations Manager for Ghana Link. They are operators of the ICOM service. They have been my guests today on Opposing Views. My name is Kwabena Chenchen Boateng. We'll see you soon with some more. Stay with us.
They say it's the little things that count. The things we shouldn't take for granted. Like being able to have a warm shower. Oh, how about some tea, my dear? And cooking with ease. How about being able to invite friends over so confidently? Sharing the food, just chilling over a few drinks, watching movies. It's just, what's the word? Comfortable. I could go on and on and on and on, but we both know what I'm driving at. It's life's affordable luxuries, and it's the